Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever part of the world you are in. And I didn't even finish buttoning my shirt up here. Isn't that a shame? First Spiritualist Church of Alabama. We're opening up something in Alabama that Alabama don't have that I'm aware of. Dealing with a lot of people, especially in weddings, I've learned a whole lot in regards to what is missing and what people are hungry for. Um, if you have paid attention to what's going on in the world of Christianity and whatnot, there are fewer and fewer people that's buying into to Christianity. A lot of it has to do with the church itself, uh, judgmental, run like a business, on and on and on. They just feel they're not getting what they want. Some have come to not believe in the stories they find in the Bible, all that sort of stuff. So there's a multiple reasons. They see a lot of hypocrisy. It's just to them, maybe it's unbelievable. It doesn't suit them. There could be numerous reasons that people drop what they're doing as far as religion and church is concerned. I have learned, as I've expressed before, that I hear most frequently that we're spiritual but not religious. Uh, and then sometimes they'll add on a tag of I'm a believer, which technically I can assume what they mean by that. But I don't pry under those circumstances of preparing for somebody's wedding. What our reality, like we talked about when we were walking through the cemetery yesterday, living with the reality of our pending death is it can be difficult, and we look for a lot of distractions, and we're provided a whole lot of distractions in our culture, entertainment, work gets us in a capitalist society. We're locked into all these things. We, but in the back of our head, we deal with this because somebody we know gets sick, somebody we know dies, and it's still there. We try not to talk about it a whole lot. We try not to think about it a whole lot. It's like, oh, I got to get up and go to work. Oh, it's a birthday party. It's an anniversary party. It's this, that. And we miss this most important thing that really in the back of our minds, most of us are very, very curious about. What happens after death? Christianity would like you to think or believe that they have some kind of a patent on afterlife. And an atheist, to believe in an afterlife, let's do this. You don't have to believe in a God. There's so much that we do not understand. So to assume that simply because you don't believe in Christianity, you don't believe in organized religion, you don't believe in Hinduism, Mormonism, any of these institutions of religion, and you don't believe in gods, to assume that means you believe that when you're dead, you're just dead. There's nothing else. We don't know that. I had to come to terms with that. When I lost and separated myself from organized religion, for a long time, I went with the assumption, is what it was, that there's nothing. You just die. I've grown from that, and I now accept that I don't know. What I do know is from the studies, and I spent a lot of years delving into this subject. What I do know is that we don't know. That's what I do know is what we don't know. All the reading, all the research, all the studies, all the conversations and travels and everything I've done and seen in life, all the death I've experienced, all this, we don't understand the full essence of life. What is this? All this we have, look at this, all this around me. All this is created, and what I'm using here is resourced from this planet. It wasn't handed to us by some great entity, some great God, or anything like this. In fact, man existed, as far as we know, for thousands of years on this planet without any of this. And then all of a sudden, within the last couple of hundred years, bam, flying, cars, houses, technology, cell phones, on and on and on. So we make a lot of assumptions based on ignorance. Some people would call it any gaps in knowledge they fill with a God or a something. Atheists tend to simply say, well, there's nothing. I mean, I, I went from calling myself an agnostic, I just don't know, to call myself an atheist. I don't believe there's any gods. And that's a pretty bold statement. Just like it's equally bold to say there's a God. We don't know. We don't know for a fact what happens after death. It may indeed be the end. It may be that our energy dissipates and separates and all the above. The reality is we don't know. I know in my dealing with ghost hunters and going in that path in my life, that it's, and I took note of this as I'm working with these people and following what they're doing, and they will use a spirit box, or they'll claim, I hear something, or this happened or that happened, and they place from that point an assumption, that this is some deceased person or whatever. In the other realm, and this kind of moves away from the more traditional spiritualism movement. I've told the story about this ring many times. I can't say how it got there. I can make assumptions based upon circumstantial evidence, but that doesn't prove. So even though it gives me a good feeling that this ring came back to me years later on my late wife's birthday, and it gives me some kind of little hope, but the reality is I don't know how this reappeared. I don't know what brought it back. I can't say that Linda's ghost, Linda's spirit, or whatever. I can't say that. That's an assumption. I can't say that God bless me. That's another assumption. I don't know. And not knowing leaves room for an open mind and for continued investigation. And in spiritualism, that's what our version of spiritualism, that's what we do. We continue to keep an open mind and continue to look. Personally, tarot cards, spirit boxes, all that sort of stuff. I don't really buy into all that. I've had the most experiences I've had in my life that would tend to move me to believe that there was some sort of an afterlife was not when I was seeking it. It was out of the blue. I pondered we could be part of some huge organism. Maybe we're like the red blood cell, white blood cell, going through this big entity out here, that we're so insignificant, like an ant crawling across the ground here is so insignificant that you may squash it and mostly you just ignore it and it ignores you, not even realizing you're walking by. When we look at what we've delved into with sending these robots to Mars and landing on the moon and whatnot, we're still dealing with just in the vastness of the universe, and we see no end. Because from where we sit, how could there be an end to the universe? What's on the other side of that wall? Is it like people that propose that, and they use the argument for God is like, well, how did this get here? Someone had to create it. That's their argument. It just couldn't have just happened. Well, then you have to go further and say, well, how did that entity, that God, where did that come from? And if you're able to accept the idea that this God has been eternal, been around forever, that opens up a lot of other questions, doesn't it? So in spiritualism, we have circumstantial evidence, and we continue to strive to see what we can learn. In the meantime, we walk through this life together so that we can deal with this reality we're in right now with some form of hope and some way to find comfort and pleasure in this life without holding on to a possible false hope or giving people a false hope. When I was taught to be a minister, a Christian minister, and I began to really dig into my studies and I really research the history of world religions and the Bible and so forth. One reason I quit that program is because I don't want to mislead anybody. I would not want to lead you down a path. And if I can't prove it, all I got is, well, I believe it, and I got faith, and it's in this book right here. How can I judge you if you don't agree with that? Because I could be wrong. Man wrote this book. And we know a lot of the history of that book and all these ancient writings that people tend to gravitate toward. And where does that take us? It's interesting. So spiritualism is indeed an investigation, a continued open-minded investigation. And as long as you present it the right way and you're not giving people a false hope, it's like when I share the story of this ring. The average person will say, oh, God brought that to you, or oh, your God brought that to you. I don't argue that with them, except I will add that I don't know. But I know it was a very powerful thing to have found this ring in the way it happened on my wife's birthday, all those years later. I find that phenomenal. So, but I still don't know. It's still an emotional experience. It opens the door just a crack as we investigate and we look. And we combine all the stories and all the things we see and feel. And if we're dealing with feeling, and we use the word what we see, remember that from our perspective, with our limited knowledge, we can look out here and we can make a lot of assumptions. From our perspective, it looked like the sun was revolving around the earth. We still say sunrise and sunset. But we've learned through investigation that we were wrong. We have a bigger picture because we kept investigating. If we had been locked down and like, okay, we got that figured, sun revolves, let's go to another subject, we'd have never found the truth. So that to me is what the spiritualist is accepting what we don't know with an open mind to continue to investigate. And yes, we take circumstantial evidence. We take these things and we investigate. If we watch the ghost hunter shows, they'll seek to debunk something. I'm not even seeking to debunk anything. I'm not looking to debunk. I'm looking to further investigate and say, well, what could that be? Where does that lead us? I personally think that we've got a long ways to go, that we don't really have a clue how all this fits together in the big picture, universally and so forth. But I do know that you and I are here. At least I was when I was making this. And that we can walk through this existence together. We can discuss what we've seen and felt and experienced in life. And we can add that to our portfolio of investigation and see where it may lead us. Just like when we found out that the earth revolves around the sun instead of the sun revolving around the earth. The investigations I see with ghost hunters and all that sort of stuff. They're locked into a mindset not so unsimilar to religions that, oh, I believe in Jesus. And, you get locked in that mindset, your mind shuts down and the investigation stops. So I got a friend that does really into it, spirit boxes and whatnot. And it ends up being just kind of entertainment because you're not really growing there. You're not really learning anything. You're a lot. It ends up being a validation of what you already believe, what you already think you know. So that is not where we are. That is not the program that we are here in spiritualism. So that's kind of just a little presentation, a little introduction, and I will try to do a daily presentation to, first of all, educate and give as much information I can as to what our form of spiritualism is, because we view spiritualism as the possibility, the great possibility, when we look at the vastness of the universe and everything around us, that there's so much we don't understand. There is something that we don't understand. And we don't put an identifier on that like a God or even a spirit. Now, I know spiritualism is the world, but we don't know what it is. Just like UFO, people immediately identify that, even though it's an unidentified flying object. They want to tie that into aliens and all that kind of stuff. But unidentified means we don't know what it is. So when we hear a disembodied voice, our first thought is, I don't know what that is. These ghost hunters' first thought is, that's Irene. She died here in 1912. Well, why would, and this is the question I bring up, why would the spirit of an individual remain in a physical place? They have no physical limitations, do they? If they are in the spirit world, that we call the spirit world, in this other realm, and if they have all this freedom of movement, they're not bound for anything physical, they walk, why would they stick to a location? And why would they, especially if I died and I came back as a ghost, and why would I hang around? To me, it doesn't make any sense. Number one, we don't know what's on this other side, period. We don't know if there's anything. It's easy to assume, given the vastness of everything, the things we experience and whatnot, it's easy to assume there's something, but we can't say it's us in spirit form after we die. Again, there's circumstantial evidence. The investigation, to me, and what we do is with an open mind, admitting that I don't know, that's my mama that made that noise. I don't know that Linda brought this ring to me. I don't. I have no proof, no way to prove it. So why am I going to buy something so easily when I miss the answers? I don't know what's behind door number 3. I only know what I've gotten to at this point. The earth is not flat. Thunder is not the voice of God. And the sun does not revolve around the earth. So we deal with it that way. And we are here to comfort and love and get through this existence together, and to continue to question with hope and with faith that we are moving forward in our knowledge like we have throughout the history of man. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have motivational things. We're going to have a lot of things. I'm doing this, determined to do this, even if it's a 15 to 30 minute thing every day. And right now I'm going to do more of an explanation of what we're about, where we're situated. And as this evolves, I will be giving presentations that are uplifting and give us We all need some encouragement. So we're here to walk through life together, knowing what we don't know and accepting that. And in this physical presence, being here for each other. Let's see where this journey takes us. Join us.